Tonight, we take a closer look at a headline that's making waves across both sides of the border. Former President Donald Trump's bold and controversial claim against Canada. The story centers on a high-stakes financial dispute that has captured the attention of politicians, bankers, and everyday citizens alike. Trump alleges that Canada has deliberately blocked U.S. banks from participating in a lucrative $2 billion bond deal, effectively shutting out American financial institutions from a major opportunity. This accusation has sent shockwaves through the financial world, raising questions about the fairness and transparency of cross-border banking practices. According to Trump, this exclusion is not just a one-off incident, but rather a symptom of a much larger problem. He argues that American banks routinely face significant barriers when trying to do business in Canada, while Canadian banks are welcomed with open arms in the United States. This, he claims, creates an uneven playing field that puts American companies at a disadvantage. Using this incident as a rallying cry, Trump has called for tougher, more aggressive trade negotiations with Canada. He paints a picture of American businesses being unfairly treated, urging policymakers to take decisive action to protect U.S. interests and restore balance to the economic relationship. However, the narrative being presented simplifies what is, in reality, a highly complex web of international finance, regulations, and long-standing agreements. By framing the issue as a clear-cut case of unfairness, it risks overlooking the intricate factors that shape cross-border banking and trade. The claim has ignited a heated debate among economists, policymakers, and business leaders about the true nature of the U.S. Canada economic partnership. Are American companies genuinely being sidelined, or is the situation more nuanced than it appears at first glance? To get to the bottom of this controversy, it's essential to move beyond political rhetoric and examine the actual rules, regulations, and agreements that govern banking and trade between these two closely linked nations. Only by understanding the facts can we assess whether the $2 billion blockade claim holds up under scrutiny, or if it's simply another chapter in the ongoing saga of U.S.-Canada relations. Recently, former President Donald Trump expanded his critique of international trade and finance, making a bold claim that U.S. banks are outright banned from operating in Canada. This statement quickly caught the attention of both the media and the public, sparking heated debates about the realities of cross-border banking and economic fairness. By suggesting the existence of a financial iron curtain, Trump painted a dramatic image of Canada as a fortress, tightly guarding its banking sector from American competition. The implication is that Canada has erected barriers so high that U.S. financial institutions are completely locked out. This narrative creates a stark contrast, a supposedly closed-off Canadian banking sector versus the open, competitive markets of the United States. It suggests that while American markets welcome foreign banks, Canada keeps its doors firmly shut to U.S. institutions. The rhetoric goes further, implying that this is a deliberate, government-enforced ban designed to protect Canadian jobs and industries. For many Americans, this resonates with ongoing concerns about job security and fair competition in a globalized economy. Framing Canada as a competitor that exploits American openness while shielding its own industries, the claim stirs up feelings of economic rivalry. It suggests that Canada benefits from access to U.S. markets, but refuses to reciprocate. This narrative is often used to justify potential retaliatory measures, such as restricting Canadian banks from operating in the U.S. or imposing new regulations to level the playing field. But how accurate is this claim? Are U.S. banks truly banned from Canada, or is the reality more nuanced? To answer this, we need to separate political rhetoric from factual evidence. To get to the truth, we must look beyond headlines and examine the structure of the Canadian financial industry, its regulations, and the actual presence of American banks north of the border. Let's investigate which American banks currently operate in Canada, what rules they must follow, and whether the idea of a total ban holds up under scrutiny. The facts may surprise you. Contrary to Trump's claim, U.S. banks are not banned from Canada. Major U.S. banks like JP Chase and Bank of America have long operated in Canada. They function as foreign subsidiaries or branches, regulated by Canadian authorities. These banks engage in corporate lending, wealth management, and capital markets. While they lack extensive retail networks, their presence is significant. Canada's banking regulations ensure stability, not targeting American banks specifically. U.S. banks focus on wholesale and investment banking, a strategic choice within the regulatory framework. The door to Canada's banking sector is open, with specific rules for all foreign players. Trump's criticisms extend to agriculture, claiming Canada blocks U.S. farm products. This suggests American farmers are shut out of a key market, echoing his banking claims. The narrative portrays Canada as protectionist, harming U.S. farmers. It implies a need for confrontational trade policies to open markets. But is Canada's market truly closed to American agriculture? We need to examine trade statistics. Data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture will reveal the true volume and value of agricultural trade between the countries. When it comes to the relationship between the United States and Canada, especially in the agricultural sector, official trade data tells a very different story than some common misconceptions. Contrary to claims that Canada blocks U.S. agricultural products, the numbers show a robust and thriving trade partnership. In fact, the data clearly demonstrates that Canada is not only open to American farm goods, but is actually one of the most important markets for U.S. farmers. Year after year, Canada consistently ranks as a top export destination for American agricultural products. From fresh fruits and vegetables to grains, meats, and dairy, Canadian consumers and businesses rely heavily on the quality and variety of U.S. farm goods. This demand helps keep American farms productive and profitable, supporting rural communities across the United States. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Canada is the second largest destination for U.S. agricultural exports, just behind Mexico. This means that billions of dollars worth of American-grown food and agricultural products make their way north every year, fueling both economies and strengthening cross-border ties. Every year, billions in agricultural goods cross the U.S.-Canada border. This constant flow of products makes Canada a critical trading partner for the United States and ensures that grocery store shelves on both sides of the border remain well-stocked with fresh, high-quality food. The agricultural supply chain between the two countries is deeply integrated. Many products cross the border multiple times during processing and distribution, highlighting just how interconnected the U.S. and Canadian food systems have become over the years. This close partnership supports thousands of jobs and entire industries on both sides of the border. From farm workers and truck drivers to food processors and retailers, countless people depend on the smooth flow of agricultural trade between the U.S. and Canada. Of course, like any major trading relationship, there are occasional disputes and disagreements over specific products or policies. However, these issues are the exception, not the rule, and they do not define the overall positive and mutually beneficial relationship between the two countries. Ultimately, the data makes it clear. American farmers rely heavily on the Canadian market, which remains not only vital, but also welcoming. The strong agricultural partnership between the U.S. and Canada continues to benefit both nations, ensuring prosperity and food security for millions of people. While agricultural trade is positive, Canada's dairy industry is a tension point. Canada uses supply management for dairy, poultry, and eggs, protecting domestic farmers. This system imposes high tariffs on imports exceeding quotas, limiting U.S. dairy access. U.S. trade negotiators see this as unfair, while Canada defends it as necessary for stability. The dairy issue is a real contention point in trade negotiations. However, it represents a small fraction of total agricultural trade. Using dairy to characterize the entire trade relationship is misleading. To understand U.S.-Canada trade, separate specific disputes from the overall relationship. While issues like dairy tariffs exist, they don't define the partnership. The U.S. and Canada share a vast, integrated trade relationship, supporting millions of jobs. Trade spans agriculture, banking, manufacturing, and more, with deeply intertwined supply chains. Political rhetoric highlights conflicts, but the reality is mostly smooth trade. Most goods cross the border with minimal barriers, thanks to long-standing agreements. Evaluating claims of unfair trade requires looking at the complete picture. Do Canada's actions signal U.S. market trouble? The evidence says no. Claims of a bond blockade and bank ban aren't factual. U.S. financial institutions thrive in Canada, and the market isn't closed. The U.S. financial market remains stable and influential globally. The dairy dispute is real but small in the context of a healthy trade relationship. Canada is a top destination for U.S. farm goods, crucial for American farmers. Rhetoric creates conflict, but the economic reality is strong ties. The U.S. Canada partnership is a cornerstone of North American stability, not in jeopardy.